Hey everybody, this is Brett Hancock. I just want to make a video here just to add it to my Divorce and Remarriage series to actually focus on the words, the Greek words, the underlying New Testament Greek words that are used in our English Bibles that would be translated as divorce. There's one primary word we'll talk about, Apoluo, but then there's like 1 Corinthians 7, because I think most of us probably know, some of us that have been studying these scriptures know that there's really only two people in the New Testament that talk about divorce and remarriage, and that is Jesus and then the Apostle Paul. And of course, the Apostle Paul, as the New Testament tells us, um, was the apostle that was sent to the Gentiles, to the nations outside of Israel, to bring them into the faith, to the same faith with those Jews, with those Israelites that would turn and make recognize Jesus as the Messiah, and that the faith for the Jews and the Gentiles is the same. But this video is not about that. But anyway, so it's Jesus and the Apostle Paul. And so we'll start with the words of Jesus. He always uses Apoluo. So maybe some of you have already heard that New Testament Greek verb before, that Koine Greek verb, Apoluo. Some of you may already have your opinions about what you think it means. But if you'd like, hear me out. Been studying New Testament Greek for 5 years here, and continue to meet with folks and try to treat it like a living language. And it's really helped me a lot to get a better grasp on the language. And so I've learned a lot of different tools and things to search and seek out vocabulary and stuff. So hopefully I can share some of that with you and help you, especially if you don't know New Testament Greek at all. And then I know there's a lot of people out there, they learn a little bit of New Testament Greek, just a little bit, and they become actually dangerous because now they start acting like experts, and when they should be very humble and just say, look, okay, I know a little bit, but let me be a good listener and stuff. So I try to be that myself. I think in the beginning, the first year or two that I was learning New Testament Greek, I was probably more convinced that I was really knew what the New Testament was saying in certain places. Then the more that I studied, the more I recognized that you start to realize there's just so much that you don't know, and let's be humble and listen to people and stuff or whatever. So anyway, let's get started here. Looking at the screen here, we're looking at some classic passages that have to do with divorce and remarriage that are from the words of Jesus, Matthew 19 and Matthew 5:31. In all these passages, Jesus uses the same verb. So let's start with Apoluo. Let's see that. Let's see how it's used. And you'll see that for this word, now we could look at luo by itself, not to go into a Greek lesson here, but it's very common in New Testament Greek for the Hellenistic people, the Greek people. They and they may still do it today. I don't know modern Greek. I only know ancient classical Greek and stuff. So, but they would use prepositions, borrow those, and use them as prefixes on the front of words. And they do it in this case, we'll look at for verbs, but they would also do it with nouns and slap it on the front of different, parts of the grammar and stuff, and put a little spin on the word by actually putting the prefix that basically is a preposition and stuff. So if you just look at luo by itself without the apo in front of it, because apo basically as a preposition means like away from. So luo by itself is kind of the idea of loosening. And so we could look at that, but I think there's enough occurrences in the New Testament here. We see there's 68 occurrences of apoluo by itself, that when we just see not even a dozen occurrences, less than a dozen occurrences of apoluo in divorce and remarriage context passages, that we step out from that, as I'm going to show you some of them, and we'll start to really see without the bias. If somebody say jump into the conclusion like, oh, it means divorce and whatever, it's like, well, let's just look at how is this word used outside of divorce and remarriage context to really get a feel for what this word really means. And then once we get a good solid understanding of that, now let's go into thinking of how it's being used in these divorce and remarriage contexts and get a better understanding, whether there's legalities involved or no legalities involved or whatever, to understand really what this word means. So as I was just showing you here, this would be some words that come up in the New King James. We're using New King James here. Here's 3 passages. They would translate that as divorce. We're going to look at that word. That's a different word. But here what we started with was the words of Jesus, which would be Matthew 5:31 and 32, and Matthew chapter 19, all these passages. So let's look at those real quick here. Let's see, it was this right here. So 5, so we see, well, you can't see, I'll have to show you, but this is a variant of the word. I'm not going to turn this into a Greek lesson here, so don't worry. But you could see, we'll be able to see here in a second. So this Strong's index number 630 is pointing to the word Apoluo. So that's what this verb is. So just remember that 630, Apoluo. Yeah, so this is Apoluo. These are all Apoluo. I mean, this is the page of Apoluo with all the different passages that are quoting from it. So you can see here Matthew 1. So this is about the birth of Jesus. And we can see this has to do with Joseph and his wife, and talking about apoluoing her, turn it into an Anglicized word. Yeah, so here it's talking about secretly, this is the infinitive form, to apoluo her, to as it says, to send her away. Okay, so again, first I just want you to see, this is the word we're talking about, Matthew 5:31, 32, and then we're going to purposely step away from marriage related context and see how is the word used. So we'll start here with Matthew 5:14. We got a verse 15, verse 22, even a verse 23, and you can even see in short space here, the little part that it does show, that they're translated as the idea of sending the crowd away. So the context is right here in verse 15 is you say, hey, it's becoming late in the evening, and then the disciples, they came to him saying, it's this place is like the desert, it's desolate, and the hour is late, it's already late, and so here's somebody giving a command form to him saying, therefore apoluson. So apoluson the crowd, in order having gone into the villages, they can buy some food. So that's what the person is saying. So here's the command form of the word. So basically what they're saying is, and they translate it as dismiss. So that's, you can hear the context when it's talking about, hey, it's already late, we're out here in a desolate place, these people are going to get some food. Apoluson this crowd so that they can go and get some food and stuff. So you can see that what they're saying there, dismiss the crowd, sending them away, that's how this is being used. So we'll look at a couple more examples like that. In the same context is, again, chapter 14, 15, 22, 23. This is the same episode, same event. It's just being used in different forms here. So that was the command form of the use of that verb. And immediately compelled the disciples, to enter into the boat and to go before him and to across the other side. Until that, he would have dismissed the crowd or send them away, until he had done that. So here's another form of the verb. It's not the command form, different form of the verb, same verb. It's just, we got 3 elements to verbs in Greek. We got, tense or aspect. If it's, again, I don't want to turn this into a Greek lesson, but anyway, you got tense or aspect. That's one category. The other one is voice, and then the other one is mood. And so we got some variants we're going to be looking at, but still the same verb. And that varies based on the relationship of the subject and the verb, and also, is it the case of probability? Is it the case of somebody giving a command? Is it the case of some factual event that's actually already happened or going to happen, or that kind of stuff? And that's how we kind of get some of those combinations and stuff. So, but in any case, it's still the same verb. So we're talking about dismissing. Okay, they would dismiss the crowd. And so now, having said that, we can just scan through some of these and we can see, here's verse 23, they dismissed or sent the crowd away. These are all 3 instances of Apoluo in the same context, that same story we just looked at. Here's also the command form apoluson, send her away. And so this is the story. If you're familiar with it, disciples are kind of complaining to Jesus, hey, send this Gentile woman away. She's crying out to us. She's a pain, and Jesus basically has mercy on her and stuff. So because of her humility and her faith and stuff. So, but anyway, this is where they're saying that the disciples are saying that, hey, send her away. Apoluso nautein, send her, because she cries out from behind us. Is basically what that is. Well, peace then from behind us. Anyway, they're kind of annoyed and stuff. So they're telling Jesus, hey, you should send her away. So that's the idea. Apoluo is the idea of send away, dismiss. That's really what we're talking about. And so when we look and apply that to the things that Jesus says, that's what we got to think of. If the husband sends away or dismisses his wife, yada, 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 whatever Jesus said, kind of thing. And so that's really the idea of what that word means. Now, another word we can look at is aphiemi. Now, this is in 1 Corinthians 7, where some of the translations will translate that word here as divorce. And aphiemi is used quite a bit in the New Testament. Let's see here. 1 Corinthians 7. I guess I didn't already. Let's see here. Corinthians 7, verse 11. Okay, turn it into a linear here. Get the Greek, and I hope this helps y'all take a closer look at these things. Right here, aphiemi. So this is the infinitive form of aphiemi. So let's take a look at this word. So this is the other one we're talking about. So Apoluo, this would be the words of Jesus, Matthew 19, Matthew 5, Luke 16, Mark 10. But here, aphiemi is used in 1 Corinthians 7, and they translate that also as divorce. So let's see if that's really kind of the idea of what we're talking about. I've kind of highlighted. This is the NIV over on the right, and this is the New King James on the left. You can see they pretty much made the same choices for these particular words to translate those as divorce. Let's see. I get rid of that. This one here. Okay. Aphiemi. All right. Let's take a look. So notice. Let's see here. I want you to see 146 occurrences of this word in the New Testament. 146 occurrences. But less than half a dozen of those are translated as divorce. And let's see how a bunch of these other ones are used. Here's as a participle, then aphes tus oklus, then they translate as they left the crowd or he dismissed the crowd. Let's go look at the definition here. What do they say here in the definition? I guess we could have done that for Apoluo as well. Send away, leave alone, permit. So I'll just tell you from my experience before we even get into this, what I've seen this word being used as most often is the word, as we'll see, translated as forgive. No, I don't want to say most often because it's in the New Testament 146 times. But whenever you see the word forgive in English, if you go look under the hood at the underlying word, most often it's this word. Because it's the idea of releasing, letting go sins or debts or obligations. You're just letting it go. And so that's the idea of the word, what we're talking about. So it's not the idea of sending away like Apoluo, but it's the idea of just letting it go, permitting it to leave, permitting it to release. Maybe you're holding on to something, onto some debts that somebody has. And then, somebody's saying, hey, could you kind of cut me a break? And then all of a sudden you say, and you let go. You go, okay, man. Oh, that's fine. I forgive you, or I release you of your debt, or whatever. That's the idea what we're talking about with aphiemi. So we'll see a lot of times it says here, translations permit, or in the old King James style, they would say suffer this to happen, which if you're familiar with what that language means from the archaic 400 years ago kind of language, it means allow or permit. That's what suffer means back then, as opposed to now it means like, you know, I'm in agony over here. So, but that was used like in the passage where Jesus says in the old King James, suffer the little children to come unto me. He's not saying for them to like be in agony and pain to come unto him. It's talking about allow them to come unto me and stuff, permit them to come unto me. So yeah, here's one where it would say, so this is the Lord's Prayer, Matthew 6:21. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those who, sin against us. Here, forgiven, forgive. Here's 3 instances of forgive. So that's what I'm saying. Whenever it's the idea of forgiving, that's usually the way they translate it. And it's the idea of releasing somebody their debt or their obligation and stuff. So we're, these divorce and remarriage passages are saying here, with this word, this is aphiemi in all 3 places. Really, third person singular. If it was present tense, it would be aphiesi. But anyway, the husband is not to release his wife, is the idea, not to let go of his wife. So because when we see, like, for instance, at the end, verse 39, where it says a woman is bound to her husband, right? So when something's bound, well, the opposite of that would be letting go, releasing it. And that's what he's saying. A husband is not to do that. And it's not saying that he can. I mean, people can do whatever they want. They're going to stand judgment before God and stuff. But like Jesus says in Matthew 19, what God has joined, let no man separate and stuff. So if the man does that, he says, and I've got tons of videos in divorce and remarriage. I encourage you to look at them and stuff. So I don't want to make this video about that. I just want to focus on the words. But if you look at like Matthew chapter 5, Jesus talks about the consequences that will come on the husband. If he does this, where it's like of course it's using Apoluo, it's not using Aphiemi, but we see here that Paul is telling us that what God has joined, let no man separate. That's what Jesus says in Matthew 19. Expressed differently, he says that she is bound to her husband as long as he lives. And like in Romans 7:2-3, it says, but if she goes and joins herself with another man while he's still alive, she's an adulteress, right? And so this binding cannot be broken except through death, right? And that's what he says here, that if this husband dies, then she's free to remarry, but only a Christian, right? Anyway, point being is that what God joins, let no man separate. And he's saying right here, the husband is not to let her go because she's bound to him. And if she does, like Matthew 5:32, and she's not committing porneia, he'll be to blame for her committing adultery, because if she goes and shacks up with somebody else, like Romans 7:2-3 says, she's going to be an adulteress. And Matthew 5:32, specifically, the point that Jesus is making there is that he will be to blame for that unless she's already committing adultery through porneia and stuff. So, but we're not going to make this video about that. But here, the husband is not to release his wife. If she's willing to live with him, talking about a believer or unbeliever, let him not release her. And here, a woman who has a husband who does not believe, and if he is willing to live with her, let her not release him, right? Because they're bound together. Let no person separate. That's actually anthropos in Matthew 19 there, which it's not by gender a man. It's let a person not separate. So I'm pretty sure actually, let me check that. Let's go check that out just to make sure, see if I'm remembering that correctly. I don't want to be saying something it's not for sure. All right, let's see. Let me check that out here. Matthew. Oh, let's look at that. Matthew 19. I really want to make this video about that, but since I brought it up, let me check to make sure. Okay, what God has joined. Yeah, anthropos. Yeah, so this, whenever, anthropos, both anthropos and aner is truly a man. That's where we get a variant of that word would be andros. That's where we get like androgynous, the male hormone and stuff. So that truly is, that's the word that rightly is translated as a man. A person that has more the idea of a person, like, mankind, it could be a man, could be a woman, or whatever, especially if it's plural. You could have man and woman together and you would call them anthropoi, plural. That's what this word is. So this could apply to the man or the woman, which is kind of like what we were talking about back here with 1 Corinthians 7, let her not release him and let him not release her. And so that's kind of like this idea right here. So again, Aphiemi is the idea of, releasing or something like that. Apoluo is about dismissing. There's a real subtle difference there, but it's the action of somebody dismissing versus somebody just letting go. And it's a real subtle difference between those two words. Chorizo is the idea of actually like physical distance separation. Like choris would be a word that is probably an adverb, I think. And it's the same family of chorizo, which is a verb. And it's the idea of, you actually being separated physically, distant from somebody. So let's see. I think I got that. I think I got that word pulled up here. Already, yeah, chorizo. Let's see. Let me show you a variant of that. Chorizo. Here, choreo. To make room, advance, hold. Yeah, this is kind of related. A space, place, land. It's kind of related. Okay, wait. Okay, choris. Okay, here we go. Okay, choris. So it is an adverb. Yeah, separated, separately. And that's very similar to the idea of what this verb is talking about, to separate and divide. And in these passages where it's talking about, let's see. Right here, yeah. I'll bring up the Greek here in a second, but in this sentence right here, but even if she does depart, let her remain unmarried or be reconciled to her husband. Right here, if she does depart, that's this verb chorizo. Where do I have that? I think I have the Greek here somewhere for that. Yeah. Let's get down here. 1 Corinthians 7. Oh, sorry, that's the adverb right here. 1 Corinthians 7. Yeah, right here. Okay. So that's believer, unbeliever. Right here. That the wife should not leave her husband. So this is the idea that she should not be like separated from her husband. And these are all kind of similar. I mean, again, this is the idea of somebody taking action to actually dismiss somebody. Dismiss. This is the idea of somebody releasing what is bound. So if it's saying don't do it, then you're saying don't release what is bound. Don't release the wife. The husband is not to release his wife. Because again, not most common, but a common use of this word is to release debt. In other words, we would translate it as forgive. And then chorizo is the idea of, putting separation or physical space between. Yeah. So it's saying that she shouldn't like actually separate from her husband. It's a real subtle difference between these words, but it's about her not separating or putting separation between her husband, as opposed to Apoluo, if it's saying, hey, don't dismiss your wife. Well, yeah, that's going to cause physical separation and stuff, but it's about you taking the action to you actually telling her, go. You're dismissing, just like when the passages we looked at were Jesus dismissing the crowd. They'd been preaching all day, they were hungry, and say, hey, dismiss the crowd so they can go get some food. So this is somebody actually taking action to do that. Or if the passage says don't do it, you shouldn't be doing it. So anyway, hopefully that's clear between these three words, and I hope this video helps you. All right, God bless you.